Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scenic View podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Owens, along with Suzanne Beasley, Artis Watkins, and Samantha Cline. I'm calling you by your full name this week, Samantha.
I know.
I'll take it.
You give Sammy all the names.
We have so much to talk about this week.
It was a week.
Let's jump into it. So, anything happened this week, y'all?
It was a slow week until they decided to roll part of the budget out, or kind of part of the budget, the
A
salaries.
budget framework.
Yeah, concepts of a budget.
Yeah.
So we're all a little punchy because we have been working nonstop.
This week has been particularly busy.
It's been busy because the legislature sort of released the budget this week, their agreement on pay raises for employees and a bonus for retirees. That was pretty much the major crux of their press conference, I guess, right?
It was. And it was a brief briefing
Yeah.
because this is not the full budget. So I think that's been kind of confusing for folks too, that this is not actually the full budget that they'll vote on. This is just a portion of the budget. They still have other things that they have to hash out. I did hear some rumor yesterday to hold the week of June 15th.
Oh, that's going to hold a month from now.
So, yeah. So clearly
There's
things to be. It's not over yet, as we said yesterday.
Absolutely.
It's not over yet.
Yeah.
So let's get into the details of the plan they announced. For state employees, it's a 3% raise for most state employees, with larger increases for certain areas like law enforcement, correctional officers, and SBI agents, parole. We'll get into the details of that. And a bonus of $1,750 for employees making less than $65,000 a year, or $1,000 for those making over $65,000 a year. Retirees would get a 2.5% bonus. It's a one-time bonus, not a cost of living adjusted. Teachers have an average 8% raise across the entire salary schedule, including veteran teachers, but it's kind of geared more towards the earlier career.
Newer teachers.
Yeah.
Which apparently this puts us at number one in hiring pay for teachers.
In the South.
Southeast, I think.
From worst to first.
Yeah, from worst to first. So.
And they would get a $1,000 bonus for teachers with 16 years plus of experience, and a $500 bonus for those under 16 years experience.
So that's kind of interesting because they flip-flopped on the
Yeah.
teacher bonuses. The ones who would be higher paid because they've been around longer and moved up the food chain are getting bigger bonuses. And with the state employees, it's the opposite. For some reason, it is considered bad to make a living wage as a state employee. Honestly, every which way, they're trying to hit them. If you work long enough to move up, it's like, well, now we're going to make the sliding scale for the health plan, so you're going to pay more.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, you're not going to get as much bonus. It's weird to me. It really is only for them because with the law enforcement, everybody got the same amount. That's great. But with state employees, I don't know. It's like we want to run them off before they stay long enough to make anything.
It does very much feel that way.
I mean, it almost feels like they kind of pit them against each other. I know that's probably not the intention, but I think that's what happens, But
look, if a state employee is making $65,001, they're apparently rich. Now, if a millionaire's kids go into private school, we need to help them. For real,
it took me some time to
65,001. But these opportunity scholarships throw money at rich people to send their kids to the private school they want to send them to. You can't make that make sense to me.
No, that's totally ridiculous. And you think about, $65,000 in Raleigh, where a lot of state employees live. That's not.
It's not a ton of money.
You're not a millionaire making that much. So
no.
The law enforcement raises were kind of the headline for much of the media requests we've gotten this week. Correctional officers would get a 15.4% average raise with steps. Probation and parole officers is a 10.1% average raise. Other LEOs, including State Capitol Police, is 13%. State Highway Patrol is 17.7%. SBI and ALE officers would get 20.3% average raise, including steps. Where is all that coming from? Like, what What is the impetus for all that?
Well, I mean, I think, let's face it, going back to the tragic incident, the murder on the light rail in Charlotte, of Irina Zarudska. Am I pronouncing that right now? Because I know I struggled with that pronunciation for a bit. But public safety and public safety officers, and whether we have enough of them and whether we treat them properly so they'll stay, that became a big issue, and rightfully so. The problem is there's a lot of other pieces to the picture that we've talked about in the past. So it's odd to me, folks who work at DHHS facilities, who work with folks who are having sometimes mental health struggles. And, you want to help folks having that. Not saying if you have a mental health struggle, you will commit a violent crime, but it can increase your likelihood in some cases if you don't get treatment. So why would we not also increase the pay for folks keeping the public safe by helping make sure people can have that treatment? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot on this podcast about the challenges of recruiting correctional officers and law enforcement in general, but particularly correctional officers. There's a huge vacancy rate at a lot of our prisons. Do you think this will go a long way towards combating that?
Well, hopefully it will definitely retain some of those good people that we have working. We've talked about this before. In 2017, it took the brutal murders of 6 employees to get that step pay plan in place for correctional officers 1, 2, and 3. So that definitely is a step in the right direction to paying people some sort of a livable wage above where they were, just, the bottom of the rung of the ladder. But I'm not sure that it's still enough pay to attract people to come to work for the state in that capacity. That's a difficult job. That's a challenging job, and that's a dangerous job.
As of right now, North Carolina is third from the bottom in starting pay for correctional officers, 49th in the country for starting pay for highway patrol. We got a lot of ground to make up.
I think that they made a big step towards making that with this proposal. But again, cherry picking just certain people leaves problems, because there's a lot of people working within the walls, as we say, in a prison who get left out of that raise. They're not correctional officers.
Yeah, and we've heard a lot from them this past week. We got caseworkers and, food service work. All these people still deal with offenders inside the walls of a prison, but they're not getting that extra pay that correctional officers are getting, and that's an issue.
So I guess I didn't make that clear enough, but yeah, you're right. So it's just the officers who get this?
It's just the officers, COs 1, 2, and 3.
It's not even their supervisors,
Not even their supervisors, which, that wage compression causes people who have grown in their careers and have all this institutional knowledge and are the people who need to pass that on. It makes them say things like, well, I'll just go, back down to being a correctional officer so I can make more money.
Or they go to the county jail.
Yeah. Or they leave altogether, and that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But same with public schools. Teachers were going to get, on average, a really good raise, but no one else in those school buildings.
Right.
And it takes the entire building to make the school function properly, and the kids rely on all of these folks for different things. So the cherry picking is really, I'm struggling with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to explain it to folks because there's no good explanation for why one position is being, held in a higher light than another.
I mean, well, at the end of the day, you know why it is, because it would cost so much more money to just say, hey, everybody in a school should get the right thing, and everybody in a prison should get the right thing.
Yeah. So let's go back to the 3% and the bonuses. So there have been some hints around. I don't know if anyone said it publicly or it's been given as the reason for the bonuses, but the understanding is that that's kind of a makeup for not having a raise last year. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah. So there was, a lot of question about this being retroactive, because usually in the years when, the legislature fails to meet the budget deadline and it goes out a few months, then they retro pay everybody back from July 1. And that's not happening, which, that's a lot of money. You waited almost a year to produce a budget with pay increases. So, that would be another chunk of money on top of that. So, the bonuses, we have heard that were given because they're not making the pay retroactive. And a bonus on top of something meaningful, that's one thing, but to have affected someone's pay, their base salary, that's going to affect their retirement benefit. When that time comes, that $1,750 actually changes nothing for them.
Yeah.
So it's not the same as making the pay retroactive at all.
What's that, about $150 a month on average? $1,700 by 12.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah, but it doesn't affect your base salary. It's
No,
money.
it's just, and it's taxed. So it's not that big.
Yeah.
either.
So it's not a big reward.
You giveth with one hand and taketh with the other.
It is kind of weird that it's taxed, isn't it? But it really doesn't help you build your salary up as you.
Right. And that when you get ready to retire and your benefit is calculated, right now there's a whole year where you had nothing.
Yeah.
That's why people feel really disrespected.
Yes.
They're like, they don't care if we leave. In fact, they kind of want us to leave, go to the private sector, get some brand new people in, burn them out and let them go, and just be that training ground that the taxpayers pay for these companies.
Yeah, and let's touch on that a minute. John, let me take over for you.
Please do.
Turnover. We've had quite a bit of conversation about that, and that leads right into it. Turnover. What, $500 million a year? I think was the last report that you dug up out of somewhere, 2022-ish.
Something like that.
It was about $500 million a year.
The Office of State Human Resources.
Yeah. So we would love to see a new report on that with current figures, but $500 million, you're just throwing out the window.
You could do a lot with that money.
You could.
Speaking of upset folks, you could give a COLA with that money, right?
Gosh, yeah.
For retirees, we have really had.
We have, and honestly, we just need to do like a mini episode just on how the retirement system works and where the COLA is actually supposed to be generated from. But when the system doesn't work properly, because in this case, we haven't had investment gains for a very long time to put us in a position for the system to pay like it should, then that leaves us knocking at the door of the General Assembly. And it is an exorbitant amount of money to ask for a real recurring COLA. But here's the thing. You told people there would be a COLA.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is something wrong and the system is not able to produce that COLA, then it's incumbent on the state.
Okay, let's talk about part of what's wrong. For years, we've been told there is a three-legged stool is the way to look at funding for the retirement system. One leg is what employees put in. Active employees put in 6% of their paycheck every month until they retire. The next leg is what the state puts in, the employer contribution, which right now is very high. It's at like
17%,
almost 18%.
18%.
So the third leg is what the gains, whatever profit you make on investments from the system. If one leg of that stool has not moved at all in practically 20 years, you're going to have problems. And that leg is the 6% coming from actives. We have no more, in fact, we have less state employees than we did almost 20 years ago. We have more people drawing a retirement check than we have in the system working. This 18% employer contribution that the legislature gets really mad they have to put in to the system, they wouldn't have to put that in there to nearly that big a level if they took that $500 million they're literally wasting on turnover costs. Put people in jobs to serve taxpayers, since we have 2 million more citizens but less employees. And then those people would be putting 6% a month into the system. This doesn't seem like, I'm not a big math person, but y'all, that one leg of the stool is just not there.
And it doesn't make sense to add to the other leg, which is the employees, because you'd be adding to them to get a COLA. So it's like, it's a wash,
you at some point, I don't know what kind of gains you'd have to make to make up for the fact that we have less employees working than we
and I'm not sure that clicks with a lot of people. Let's say it again. There are fewer employees paying into the system than there are. I mean, there's so many more people are getting a benefit check than are paying into the system.
So if you paid more, had more state employees, they would be paying more into the retirement system. So the legislature could pay less into the retirement system. And the
legislature would probably keep those $500 million in turnover costs.
Yes. And they would have money to maybe spend on a COLA or either way,
or at least there'd be money there.
Yeah. Either way, they wouldn't have so many mad people, too.
Exactly.
And people would be living better.
Great summation.
You wouldn't have the DMV issues crop up.
Right.
Yeah.
Those would never have cropped up if we kept up the number of employees to the population. Elaine Marshall, the Secretary of State, was on here a few weeks ago talking about how her office that brings in fees for the state doesn't have enough people to bring those fees in at the rate they should be and used to be. And not only does that cost the state money, but it slows down entrepreneurs, small business people trying to get started in the private sector. So it's just a mess. There's no logic to it.
Well, then we're not going to stay number one place to come do business.
Well, I mean, it's number one for big business.
Oh, definitely for big.
It's not number one for people.
I feel like we really made a breakthrough right there. I feel like we have something we can argue. That is a very profound thought when you think about it. If you paid more to employees, they would put more into the system. Oh, we gotta map this out. I gotta figure this out. It's going to be anyway.
It's going to be a whole episode right there.
So 2.5% bonus. I think I saw someone on Facebook, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but I think that's like $700 for some folks.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the amount of your benefit, obviously.
Retirement checks are usually very low.
Yeah. What is it, like 60% of your income usually?
Roughly.
Okay. I don't know how people are making it on.
I don't either. Well, I mean, a lot of them are
not
and having to go back to work.
Yeah. And healthcare.
And by the way, this coming week, a documentary is coming out.
Oh, yeah. Artis is going to be a celebrity.
Well, no, that's not what we're talking. No, there is a documentary coming out called Pension Fight Club. And it's about public pensions all around the country and how 26 million people invest their money in these pensions while they're working. And they are getting all but robbed blind by folks investing it with the outrageous fees they're charging them, but they're able to keep those fees secret from the public, even though it's the public's money and these public employees' money. And it is fascinating. I used to think we were kind of alone in North Carolina with this, and it's hurting our retirees, and it's going to hurt all of our actives one day. But these retirees are starting to band together, these 26 million from around the country. If you are a retiree or ever want to be, go to the website, and there's a trailer for the documentary, www.pensionfightclub.com. And you can see what they're doing in other states where they're banding together and fighting back. And what's going to happen is that from all around the country, we're all going to get together and we're all going to stand up and fight this so that the money stays in the system and you can actually give people, like Suzanne was saying, give them enough to live on.
Yeah, and Artis plays a prominent role in the trailer. I was joking about her being a star, but she might be a star. I mean, she don't know.
It's the only time in my life I'll ever see my name on a movie poster. There's that.
I just discovered something that
What'd you discover?
Very excited about. I did look up this Pension Fight Club, and you have an IMDb.
No way.
You're listed as a cast member.
Wow.
Yeah,
you're an actress.
Think I'm going to get an Oscar?
Oh, 100%.
I hope not.
I think the trailer's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Doug Orchard, who put this thing together, I think he did a good job. Let's face it, it is not sexy material.
Mm-hmm.
Like investing pension money. That's on its face kind of boring, but I think he did a great job of showing how it affects lives and how it is absolutely just the biggest gambit going.
We'll share it on our Facebook, all our social medias, and you can go there and look at them.
One thing about Doug Orchard is he wasn't letting anybody control messaging. It was going to be the real unvarnished truth. And because of that, he wasn't going to go through these big corporate, distributors you can see things from because you get nasty grams for saying the truth.
Yeah. Maybe we can get a screening at our convention or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. And this is kind of cool, though, too, that this is coming out because, we had our lobby day.
Yep.
Last week. What's happened with the budget framework this week has happened. So, retirees are definitely feeling some kind of way. And I know I saw comments on our social media about retirees picketing, retirees, banding together. So
this would be, Find a Fight Club near you is something Doug Orchard said he was going to put somewhere on the website. I haven't checked to see if he did. Mm-hmm. But in North Carolina, he said it's going to be scenic because we have, as an organization, and we're really proud of this, we have taken a lead on issues protecting and fighting for retirees forever. I mean, in 2001, we sued the governor who took funds that belonged to the system before they actually got put in the bank. And that lawsuit took years and had to go all the way to the Supreme Court, but we won, got that money put back for retirees. And since then, it's been one thing after another that Scenic has tried to take a lead nationally, one of the leaders in this country on, protecting. And maybe we can have Doug Orchard on and maybe we can have some people from that documentary and just let retirees know what he found around the country.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we definitely are working for you. I know that a lot of the comments, maybe not a lot of them, but some of them question if we are, but we really work a lot for retiree issues in addition to the...
Well, they don't let us write the budget.
No.
So that's the one thing we cannot do.
If they did, it would be a lot different, right?
It would.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that we're definitely tracking, because it was in the House budget and the Senate budget, was vacant job cuts.
Yeah.
This week we did release a database of... We took a look at State Auditor Dave Bolick's report on vacant jobs and explain what it means in our terms, what we really think it means. And the biggest takeaway that we have is that it's not a vacancy crisis, it's a pay crisis.
That's right?
And so you can see that whole report on jobsdata.scenic.org. You can link to it from our Facebook and also from scenic.org. But we've gotten a few compliments on that issue, on that database. But how are you hearing about job cuts? Anything yet?
So nobody's saying anything in particular about that. I mean, we obviously know it's in the mix because it was in both proposals that were left on the table when they ended the long session. But we are not hearing specific numbers right now. What there has been conversation about is how are they going to pay for the pay raises that they rolled out in the budget framework this week. Where's that funding going to come from? How many positions is that going to cost?
Yeah. And I saw a tweet today that mentioned something that I'd not even heard, that they were thinking of increasing the sports betting fees or taxes to pay for the raises. That was kind of out of left field, so to speak.
Well, there's been some left field stuff this week. From legalizing weed and gambling.
Yeah.
But John, I want to compliment you on that dashboard. It's really cool. And I think, what the auditors team came up with, the data itself, we didn't take any issue with the data itself. It's how folks are interpreting that data as opposed to how the agencies themselves can tell you they're using it. I mean, the lap salary money, that is.
Yeah.
But I think you did a great job on that, and I think it's a novel way to sort of amplify the auditor's message and show that these vacancies are not necessary if we paid people right.
Yeah, it's really complicated. It's a lot. But
and it's misleading in that, when you say vacant positions, people think, well, they're vacant, we don't need them. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
People need to be paid to fill those positions to, support North Carolina.
So what else are we fighting on the budget? Anything? Or are we advocating?
Well, that's the big issue right now. Now we're in the what's next stage. Since this
do you see them moving at all on these?
Lots of conversations, but all this is being done behind closed doors. This is not vetted out in committee anymore. And this is the conference report. So it's not like it didn't start from scratch over again. So once they decide on what's going to be in it, it'll come to the floor and they'll vote.
Yeah.
So
I'm very hopeful that with, we have some younger legislators coming in, and I'm hopeful they'll throw out the old ways of doing things behind closed doors and bring some of what I feel like the younger generations really value a lot, which is more transparency, more public hearings on things, actually hashing things out, because I think the younger generations kind of get it that the public understands.
Yeah.
You should go ahead and have those conversations in front of the public. They understand. I don't know. I'm speaking for y'all.
But we understand.
Yeah. So there are lots of ways for you to get involved and advocate for yourself and for your coworkers on our scenic.org website and also our Facebook page. We have ways for you to email your legislators really easily and also call them. We've had a lot of calls this week. I was really surprised. I mean, we usually offer that option and nobody really does it.
And that's probably the best option.
It really is, yeah.
I mean,
we get too many people saying their emails bounce back or that they don't get a response to their email.
Well, we haven't. I sent out a question to the people who have taken action earlier this week, and people just aren't getting any response. And that's unlike them. It seems like they'd at least send a form response or something.
Yeah, well, sometimes... So there's a whole issue with emails in the legislative building. It's not you, it's them.
Yeah, tell us what you were telling me earlier.
Yeah, so emails will go into quarantine.
Okay.
Into a quarantine section of email. So they, legislators, if you don't hear back from them, they may not have ever even seen your email come through.
Is it a super aggressive spam filter?
Yeah.
I mean, Scenic has one too that's super aggressive. So a lot of time people will say they tried to email us. And I don't know what you do in that situation.
I had a conversation with a legislator yesterday, and she said the same thing. I don't know how you fix that, but I know we had reached out, Scenic, just to our IT people to make sure it wasn't something on our end.
Yeah.
So that, that's problematic. Let's send an email, not just for us, but for anybody trying to email their legislator.
So call them.
So what are the most effective ways? Calls?
Phone and call them or go
visits?
see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do all these legislators have offices in their districts too, or no?
No, but you hear a lot in the rural areas. Oh, I saw him at Walmart.
Yeah.
I saw her at church. They're out. They're people. So they're out in the community.
They're people just like us. So
yeah,
don't be intimidated to talk to them.
Like we said, we still have about a month left on the old budget. Anything else going on? The budget kind of sucked all the air out of it.
It did.
We had talked about WakeMed and Atrium.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, it's so much in like 10 days' time. But the proposal that the Wake County Commissioners almost voted on, like as number 16 on a consent agenda, was to allow WakeMed and Atrium to become one entity. Why you should care if you are a state employee is that your premiums, according to what we were told, your premiums would literally, if this went through, go up like $7 a month just because of this consolidation going through. That's how much the power would be consolidated. And, that drives prices up 10 times out of 10. So they are going to have, WakeMed and Atrium are having community forums. Now, this is weird because Wake County Commissioners said, hey, we don't actually have the power here, which they, experts are all saying, yeah, they actually very much do have the power, but
otherwise, why would you have to vote?
So Wake County Commissioners are trying to lead everyone to WakeMed and Atrium's listening sessions. And we just put it right out there. We don't give a hoot what WakeMed and Atrium think of what our members have to say. We very much care that the Wake County Commissioners give a hoot what their constituents have to say. So, but if you want to go to one of these community forums, on WakeMed's website, there's a list of them, and they start Thursday, May 21st.
Yeah, WTVD 11 has a story about it as well, and they're on May 19th, 21st, 26th, 27th, and 28th at WakeMed hospitals and community centers. I guess they have a list of them here, all in the Raleigh and Cary area. That just broke. That was just a...
Yeah, and I'm not really sure what that's all about. Like, we're the ones that want to do this. We need government to say it's okay. We're going to listen to the public instead of the government listening to the public. But y'all should go anyway. Let them know what you think.
Yeah.
If nothing else, just for fun. But Wake County Commissioners, let them know.
So it's in our news section. We tried to make it easier for you to contact them. So yeah, it was kind of hidden on their website, if you ask me, but we made it a little more easily accessible. I have a couple other stories about that same issue. WRAL came out with a look at CON reform, Certificate of Need laws reform, in the wake of this WakeMed Atrium deal. Do you think that this would maybe have a effect on that?
For years, there's a bunch of us that have been down there lobbying to reform that system where certificate of need, y'all, is where certain entities get these certificates of need, and they, by holding them, can be the only people to be able to do certain things like have MRI machines in a certain geographic area, do things like that. So what it does is it keeps competition out.
Mm-hmm.
And there is not any significant safety or any other reason that anyone's articulated that's been really compelling to say government should allow this and should participate in it. So, yeah,
it's amazing to me that so many people are for this change. State Treasurer Brad Briner, us, we had a brief in that. I think there was a lawsuit about it.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Michael Lee.
Oh, it's bipartisan.
I mean,
heck.
There's a lot of support for this, and yet the hospital lobby is so powerful.
Because think about it. Everybody, we hate regulations. Government regulations have to stop, except where they protect my market share.
Yep.
In which case, government regulations are important and they serve the public well.
Yeah. I remember learning about what that was in like 2012 because we were in a fight over it then. I was like, what are you talking about? Con reform? I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
So, I think it's definitely needed.
Sammy, you look like you had a thought on con reform.
Sounds like a monopoly to me.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly what it is.
The same fight that we just had against Ticketmaster and Live Nation.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It is. Exactly. Every time we talk about those things, it comes back to, it's bad enough if your concert tickets are done that way, but when your health care is.
The other story I wanted to mention that I just saw, I actually saw this on the way to Raleigh today, was Atrium is opening a new $893 million tower at their main campus.
Oh, neat.
A really beautiful picture of this tower.
I bet it's
hospital.
Cool.
Yeah, so they're not hurting for money. They got enough to buy WakeMed.
Well, they have the number 2 paid CEO in the city of Charlotte.
He makes more than any of the Panthers, right? I think we looked that
up. I believe
up.
so. He's $25 million a year.
So
just crazy. I mean, when do you have enough money?
Exactly.
No one at this table could tell you.
Yeah.
We'll ever know.
We'll ever know.
So Wendell Powell, our president, just stepped into the makeshift studio. How you doing, Wendell?
I'm doing pretty good. How everybody doing today?
You excited for a board meeting? We're doing our quarterly board meeting this weekend. So.
Oh, yeah. I'm pumped up. Got my materials. There's a lot to discuss. A lot of things coming up on the horizon. A lot of things our membership needs to be aware of. So I'm looking forward to getting the word out and doing Senate business.
Yeah. So, Wendell, how are the proposed raises going over in the prisons? We were talking a little earlier about how we're hearing from people who are not correctional officers but work inside the walls who are kind of upset.
Well, there's always been a separation whenever there's a raise. I mean, you'll have the officers are like, yay, the line staff is there, everybody's ecstatic. But then the other people that work behind the walls, as your trainers, your admin staff, your wardens, sometimes your program staff, they don't, or your food service, they differentiate. Sometimes they don't get the bonuses the same as a correction because they say they're not correctional staff.
Well, they've got the whole step plan for correctional officers, and that leaves out everybody else. Yeah.
So it's a very, so we can get everybody on the same page because they deal with the offenders.
Well, in Pasquotank, it wasn't just officers that got attacked.
Correction Enterprise, they deal with the offenders just as much as we do.
Yep.
So there should be some equity, but unfortunately, there are divisions even within the division.
So a raise is great, but we're also facing some job cuts, vacant job cuts. And if you cut jobs, you're kind of making those struggles that correctional officers are facing every day. You're making it permanent, right? Because you're not going to have the jobs there for them.
And, that was something I explained to my staff when I went over the pay raise and the bonus. And I explained to my staff, I said, I understand you're happy on the front end, but also understand, you know how hard you're working now? If they start cutting positions, guess what? That's how hard you're going to be working in the future because they're not going to be hiring new staff and we're going to be in the same situation with a little bit more money in your pocket.
Yeah.
At some point that, you're going to get burnt out because we got to have staff.
So, making it permanent, like you just said, John.
How hard is it to hire someone at $37,000 a year as a starting salary?
Well, they don't stay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hire them, but when they start seeing what the job entails, and then the fact that you're working holidays, you're away from your family, you're working 12-hour shift, it doesn't always translate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they start to look kind of, and there's an expectation of you got to do this. I'm giving you a weapon. There's a lot of expectations working in the Department of Adult Corrections. And, there's a lot of responsibility for the pay.
Yeah.
There's still overtime. So people are working. It's just getting in but corrections isn't for everyone. So
that's true.
It's one of those niches.
Yeah.
Either you got it or you don't.
That's right.
Well, we're happy you stepped in here. Give us some time here. Anything else on your mind you want to talk about?
I guess the biggest thing is understanding, this healthcare, because even though we touched on raises, healthcare is still going up.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of uncertainty. So we're still trying to wrap our heads around what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
What kind of pricing, our medications. I hear members talk all the time about complaining about their medication, things that they used to be able to afford, they can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
A pill that they used to get for $20 now it costs them $400.
Yeah.
All because we switched from Blue Cross Blue Shield to Aetna, and now it's going to go up even more, and your family coverage is going to go up more. So it's a mess. So there's so many question marks I have that I'm just trying to figure out what's our take and how we're going to work on that.
Yeah. Well, I think we can finish with our question of the week if y'all are okay with that.
All good here.
John's wacky weird question of the week.
All right, so I'll just make it brief. What are you looking forward to most this summer? Anything on the horizon?
I got something.
You always have something, right?
Oh, yeah. I always got something planned. But this year, one of the things I might be doing is my mom and my aunt like to take two of my baby cousins to the beach and go to Myrtle Beach for about a week. So I might be joining them a couple days this year. It's kind of like a thing to give my cousins a break from having to parent for a week. So grandma and great aunt take them out there, and sometimes they need some help with keeping up with them. So we might go spend a couple days out there.
That's awesome.
That's the best, is the beach trip with the family. That's always
good
remember
memory
that.
making. That's mine too. We started a tradition of going to the beach in August for Mia's birthday. She'll be 5 this year, so I'm looking forward to that beach trip.
So my wife surprised me that we're going to Disney World in August randomly. Well, my cousin wants to go. He's going, and so we're kind of tagging along with him. But just a few days. We're not spending like a week or anything. Kind of like a weekend trip. But our kids are 20 and 13 now, and I just feel like it's going to be a lot different than when they were 6 and 12.
I've never been, but my understanding is there's plenty, just as much,
it's so much
more
fun
for them when they're older.
Oh yeah, we're going to Universal, so I'm excited about that. That's a little better for the older kids, from what I understand. So
I enjoy Disney. I think every time I've gone, we've had to stay at least 4 days.
Yeah,
because you got to go in each part.
Yep,
and spend. Even though you spend more time at the actual main part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the thing. My wife is saying we're going like 4 days, and like we got to go to all the parks. We're not going to be able to fit it in.
Even if you don't hit the water parks, you got to at least hit Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios.
Animal Kingdom is the best.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's a lot of walking. Animal Kingdom is that's.
But it also has some of the best food.
Oh yeah.
Here's where you lost me: Florida in August.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that I don't agree with. I have not gone.
Not ideal.
I don't agree with that.
Mosquitoes and
it's hot.
So what are you looking forward to since you've done Disney? What else?
Well, usually with the family, we'll either get like a house in Florida, we'll get like a beach house, or we'll get like on those corporation houses that has the theater, the home.
Oh, yeah, like a Verbo.
I remember some pictures from y'all's
Yeah, so
last
that's cool.
I'm thinking about
family.
doing that again. You know, it has the indoor pools and all that stuff, and let the kids just run wild. Like I said, I don't want to go to Disney no more. I'm good.
But y'all had family come from like out of state.
I'm
and
Disneyed out,
everything.
but just to go down there and just hang out, go to the beach,
That's cool.
and,
Enjoy your family.
and just swim and eat, and that's it. I mean, I'm good. And
Get one of those houses with like 10 or 12 people with 3 families up in there. Yeah.
Yeah, about 8 or 9 bedrooms.
Yeah.
They got different ones, 12 bedrooms. You can get smaller, but you can get and they're nice.
Always fun. What are you doing, Artis?
I'm looking forward to, and I realized this the other day when it was warm, 9 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. Because when we get to the real heat of summer, I don't like being out in the middle of the day in that.
Gross.
But I really like right before it gets dark and right after it gets light because it feels nice and warm. You can go out there in your shorts and flip-flops and just piddle around, but it's not, the humidity isn't killing you yet, usually.
I've already started, maybe it's my new apartment. I actually get really good lighting in my bedroom, but I've started waking up with the sun. I'm up at like 6:30 every morning, and I'm like, I'm going to make a cup of coffee and go sit on my balcony.
Yeah, I love it.
Beautiful.
We're all getting so old.
Not Sammy.
Even her. All right. Well, that was a good synopsis of the budget, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great week.
All right. Bye, everybody.